Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the trailer that just came out for WandaVision. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But obviously for this video, I just want to share some thoughts and theories about, WandaVision as a whole. I thought it was kind of interesting where we start off at, because it seems like, from the beginning of the trailer, it seems like they're going for like a bewitched kind of aesthetic, because obviously you see her kind of using her powers, but it's like meant to be more kind of magic, obviously, like her levitating stuff and pouring drinks and obviously turning Vision from his typical form to his more human form. And but I thought it was kind of interesting because when they have neighbors over, which one of them is the actress who played Kitty, Eric Foreman's mom in that 70s show, so I thought that was just kind of interesting. I'm sure it's kind of like supposed to be like a wicked nod to that, because if you don't know, the whole aesthetic for this show is for them going for a little bit of a direct reference to a lot of like well-known sitcoms and stuff. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like a wicked nod or just am I thinking too much about it. But what I thought was interesting, because they were asking all these questions about like, oh, how'd you meet and everything like that, and then she stops, Wanda stops for a second, and then he's like, Vision's like, no, let me, honey, I think what my wife is trying to say. And then he stops because I guess it's a thing of like, because at first I was wondering, did they not realize what this was? Because I was thinking maybe Wanda is so confused that maybe she thinks that this is reality, and that maybe in that moment they're like, wait, how did we meet? Like, how did we get here? Like maybe their memories have been messed with a little bit. But I guess it's like, but I was also thinking like, maybe it's also because like, well, Wanda can't necessarily tell the truth about how they met, because they met under very extreme circumstances, that being ergo the events of Age of Ultron being like their first time meeting and everything. So that kind of makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But the next shot we see is like, it seems like they're both in to know about what's going on, because it's like, oh my God, is this real? So like I said, it makes me wonder, which does it start off as? Is all this happening subconsciously, and at first Wanda isn't aware of it, and then slowly but surely finds out like, oh my God, this is happening, and I can control, I can make this whatever I want it to be. That's kind of immediately there. But because obviously you see a jump cut of all the different like, sitcom things they do, and kind of having all these different adventures filling this, more family role. Because I think probably, because someone had put it in a very interesting way, that like basically because of where Wanda grew up, probably like she's basing her knowledge of what probably the perfect family is based on like these sitcoms she saw and stuff like that, probably, but nevertheless, something I thought was kind of interesting, because we see Vision out and about, and he goes over to one of his neighbors, that neighbor that's played by Catherine Hahn, and he touches her head, and like we see a glow, and she's like, oh my God, like, am I dead? He's like, why would you think that? She's like, because you are. So I think, and this is where I think this is coming from, like maybe either Wanda's known the entire time that this is obviously all make-believe, and the fact of the matter is that, or maybe she eventually figured it out, but I think she wiped Vision's memory of everything, because I don't think he knows that he's dead. Maybe he thought like, oh, they found some way to bring me back. So it makes me think that this is a fake Vision. This isn't a real Vision. So it's like, a construct that she made that has, so it's probably going to be almost that weird thing of like, oh, am I even the real Vision, or am I just a copy made to fulfill some role or something? That's what I'm, and that's probably going to lead down to a very existential crisis that he's probably going to have. I mean, this whole thing in itself seems like it might be, and it definitely is an existential crisis, because obviously, Wanda still hasn't probably processed everything, losing Vision, him being, because out of any of the Avengers, obviously he's the one that she fell in love with, because obviously there's that time frame we still never really got to see in between Civil War and Infinity War, the time they were kind of those moments that they were sneaking off together, in that time frame. Like we never got a lot of that, but like a lot of that relationship built over the course of that time period as well. But so I think that's kind of an interesting aspect to this, and especially because we see later on that like someone's getting blasted out of like this reality, and we see that it is in fact a military outside. So it's like the military is like, something's going down here, we need to shut this down. Like it's almost kind of like a we got this small town has been almost invaded by Wanda, and she's warping it into what she wants it to be. Because I was also curious about that too, because I figured like that was always my immediate thought, was like, oh, because obviously you hear about like was it Darcy, wasn't that her character's name? Yeah, Kat Dennings' character from the Thor movies, as well as Randall Park's character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, that they were going to be in this show as well. And I was wondering what the circumstances were going to be. And then my immediate thought was like, okay, so it must be a thing of she has control over a neighborhood and kind of warps reality. And it seems like that, because it seems like maybe slowly but surely, like the the fact is that Catherine Hahn's character says, because you're dead, makes me think that they're kind of all a manifestation of her subconscious, because she's trying to like fight her, like her subconscious is trying to peek through, like you can, because it's all kind of, you know, a manifestation of her own mind. So it could be that these these people that she's warping into these particular roles, maybe slowly but surely, like, you know, they're speaking what her mind is trying to say. It's like, you're not dealing with this stuff. You, Vision, aren't really real. Like, it's just, you know, like I said, because in her mind, she's trying to create the perfect life, and for her, that's already gone, and she won't have it back until Vision's back. And obviously, the person who got blasted out of that neighborhood, I think, I'm blanking on her. I want to say it's Monica. She's the daughter of Carol's best friend in Captain Marvel. Like, that's her daughter, because remember, it's been 20 years since like Captain Marvel. Plus you also have to add on top of that the 5-year time skip in between Infinity War and Endgame, because the thing is, like, the fact that she easily got blasted out, because obviously she's a hero in the comic books, so I already knew that a little bit just because I've heard people talk about it. But I'm wondering, like, does she work for the government now? Maybe that's something that happened in that 5-year time skip, or maybe it's something that happened in a 20-year time skip. I'm curious to see kind of how they end up handling, because why her specifically was sent in. Maybe she's kind of a secret agent. Maybe she was meant to kind of like sneak in there and find out what's going on, and, you know, eventually, like, you know, Wanda shoots her out because it's like, no, you're messing with this my perfect world, like, don't make this all come crashing down type of situation. But like I said, like, there's a military force outside probably being like, oh, this is something we gotta step into, and I'm curious to see how that kind of plays out in a role, because it's like, you know, it's like her dream world and the reality, you know, real world coming to basically topple this dream of hers, you know. Well, now that I've said all that, I think that actually might explain why Darcy and Randall Park's character from Ant-Man and the Wasp is actually there, because he's an FBI agent, so that might be why he showed up. And obviously Darcy's kind of been part of this craziness of things, crazy stuff going down in the world because of all the Thor stuff. So it's like, this could be her investigating that, and that could be also why, you know, so that could be both their ways into this story, not unless they actually do live in the neighborhood, because like they only made note of like Catherine Hahn's character being like the nosy neighbor. So that's why I'm kind of thinking like they're not from this neighborhood, but they get involved in the story from an outside perspective of they came here to investigate stuff, and maybe they get wrapped up in it, or maybe they always stay on the outside of things. I'm curious to kind of see, like I said, see what role they end up playing. I think it's going to be an interesting show just because of the whole thing of like, you know, kind of that thing of almost like be careful what you wish for, because, you know, in that age-old tale of like, you know, sometimes the thing you wish for isn't always what you wanted. Like, it, you know, it becomes a little kind of like, you know, making a wish to a genie. You have to be careful about your wording, because sometimes wishes can start off great, but because the wording was wrong, or just wishes, I mean, depending on like, you know, the story, it could just be a thing of like, there's always going to be that twist. You know, things always kind of take a darker turn, you know, because of your wish. So I think that's where this is going to go, where it starts off this beautiful fantasy, but it starts unraveling more and more as she herself unravels more and more, as well as, you know, Vision kind of probably fighting her own, being like, no, I'm not real, you got to change this, you got to let all these people go, you got to let me go. And I think that might be kind of where the story heads. Who knows? It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm very excited to see firsthand, you know, what this show ends up being and where the story goes. Obviously, these are some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.